Hi guys, so today we're going to next level. So we're using our local database, it means our SQL server 2025, link up with the Ollama chat. So let's move on. So before we move on, I try to open another console AI stock, new applications, click next as usual, go for standard, waiting for creating. Okay, that's it. So now we're already in the console page now. So let's working on the database to link up here. How are we going to do that? Okay, now we're in the console applications. So what going to do first? So first we declare our constant string. So we get the constant string, which is my local host. It's my event temporary DB. So what are going to do next? So as in the what we checked in our previous video, what are going to do here? So I call the HTTP client. So because we want to working on the Ollama REST API. So since that case, I call the HTTP client. So how I can I copy and everything so I can get everything here? But since we are working on the DB and everything, so in order to better structures, so better understanding, I create one more class called Ollama clients. So I remain the same, so we can remain the same, no issue because we are under the all same roof. Otherwise, we can change to public, no issue. Both are the same. So next, what are we going to do? I create a constructor. So once I create a constructor, what I'm going to do here next is we create for HTTP client private only HTTP clients. Okay, sounds good. HTTP client should be. So now I already passed you the HTTP client. So next again, you always remember we try to working on the client side. So we need to pass the URL. So from here, okay. So see, this is the URL 1433. So this URL is our local URL. Next again, so here I want to set the some timeout because I don't want sometime the time seconds will be so fast we cannot take it depend on the PC performance. So my case is a bit slow, so I put the minutes around 5 minutes. Okay, next. So we already said all the basic constructor was necessary. Now we're working on the chat. So how are we going to working on the chat? So let's copy from the existing what I did from the previous one. So here we just call the JSON. So from here we have post the client the API chat here. So looking at the previous one, we're using the model here, but here we're passing the model, system, and the users because we want to create the separate video and everything's done in the program. So from here we string. The string is whenever you want chat anything, we can using like every time based on the string we get the even we won't wait for until the reply. From this case, since I said the false, we wait moments until everything completed, then only return the answer. If we change to true, so whenever the chat, the answer once received, they start to stream one by one slowly. For my testing case, I remain the false. This temperature I already explained to you in my previous video is about your data accuracy. Second is the top one. what is the top one? So top one is a more to like we can say is about the very focused response. We don't want to like what called it's a something we can say is a Nicholas sampling. So we just focus to we just what we want just focus on that. Very low means is it won't be very fancy. Just straightforward go to point. Next is a numeric. In the Google Gemini AI, they come with another called tokens. Here is a verdict. So I don't want the text going to until maximum. I just put 100. Since I play with the stock, I can reduce to 50 also based on your text length. Then last one is the message. I want set the system. The system from here I receive what the data. Then next one is the role from the user I going to receive. So everything as usual. Then we pass in the post methods. We pass the payload here. Then we get the response. Then we put in the JSON document. We read one by one. We can then get the property by because as you know, firstly you have to everything is in the JSON approach. So from here we go to message, then go to content, then get a string. So from the root elements. So once it's done here, let's move here. We need to call the our client. So from here, I don't want call the HTTP or a client. So we need to import here. So setup. So we already called the client. We call the client here. Hi guys. So let's move to here. So we already created an HTTP client class. So inside the class, so we try to create the chat function. So from here we call the chat function. We can exactly what we did in the previous one, but here the difference here we just pass in the model with this model in the parameter system and user. So what the here looking at this we pass the model from let's say we pass from the here, then we pass the system and user. So the string here, the purpose here, the string I set false is because I actually can use true. What happen every time the response received, he will be like existing like all AI, everything based on the string is running smoothly. So my case is a PC bit slow. I wait for until the response getting then irritant. That's the reason I set as a false. So from here the options. You were previously looking at my previous video in the Gemini AI, so I already set as a zero because the zero is the main purpose is zero here. We want to looking for accuracy, the determine answer. So I don't want any beside that. Okay, this one more to like we play with the stock inventory, you play with the temperature. So because the temperature must be accurate, so we don't need to play this one. If let's say you're based on the text approach, so you can change play 5 or something, no issue. Next is the top P. Top P is something like a mm, also similar like a temperature, but it's a more to like a sampling. They call sampling. So Nicholas sampling something like that. So in the lower value, we will say the value more lower is the more clear and more focused. So in order to say in vector, he will be very close call. Next is the num predict. In the num predict, it's a similar like in the Gemini AI. Gemini is based on the tokens. The tokens. So here we using num predict is 120. So we don't want any text is more than 120. It will be limited. Next is the message here we receive from the system here system. So what are the prompt we receive? Next is the user. The user means we the question we raise. So next we pass HTTP client here into here in the post method. Then this one is our JSON text JSON. So then we pass the API chat. Then this is the URL. So we pass the payload. Then we get the response. We make sure the response correct. Then we pass into the JSON format. The then we pass everything. We get the root element because inside the with every time the Ollama chat is written in the JSON approach, so we have to go for property we're looking for message and content, and so then will be written. Then after we done this part, everything I think is already completed. That's it in the setup on the Ollama client. So let's move to here. Then I want to call the our Ollama client. See, so from here we already called the Ollama client with the AS toss. So we already pass into the Ollama variable. So that's it. So now we are going to next to declare all the information. So first we have to create the while and true close. Then actually if those who follow my previous video, you don't know why we need to create the while loop. So if it didn't create means what happened, you can go back to my previous video, you can check that. So from here I need to create a like a one console like a ask questions. So let's ask questions here. Is from my side. Then I want to create something user input. So user input read from the console line. Next part here one. So those are type exit. I need to click from this loop. So exactly for same exactly what I did in my previous code, everything same. So now that here I need to pass this all the client all the necessary informations. So how are we going to do that? So because we need to declare our model and everything. So from this case, we need to declare all the necessary informations. So you're looking at this one, there is a here the prompt error. So what here the purpose here? Every time remember, so we don't want to use this one, you can pass the user input. So it's working fine because whenever I call this one, we call the chat. So you go to this model, this system, and this user. But the purpose here, we want to integrate with the SQL and PI3. So how we can do that? So that's the reason we need to create another prompt. Actually, you can create here itself here. Prompt. Uh, prompt. So those are information you can pass blah blah blah. You see, this is important. The prompt you can pass into here is working based on that. So since we want to have some specific words, so how are we going to create that?